Imagine standing right here on the very threshold of the most advanced spacecraft ever built by human hands, ready to embark. The deal is incredibly simple and enticing. You fly for just one single year, and your mission is complete. But here is the terrifying cosmic reality that is waiting for you upon your inevitable return to this Earth. While you aged only 12 fleeting months, a full brutal century has screamed past everywhere outside this ship. So, is that incredible glittering future actually worth trading absolutely every single thing you have ever known? Let us imagine the exact moment those heavy steel doors seal shut and the fusion engines finally ignite. You feel a sudden violent vibration as the ship tears through the fragile atmosphere of our pale blue planet. In your mind, you are simply taking a very long commercial flight across an unimaginably vast dark ocean. You look at the mechanical watch on your wrist, listening to the steady and comforting ticking of the hands. You assume that every single second ticking away right now is completely identical to a second back on Earth. This is exactly the comforting illusion that human beings have blindly accepted for thousands of years of recorded history. Why do we naturally believe that time is a universal metronome beating identically for every creature in the cosmos? The truth is that time is incredibly deceptive, and it does not flow like a calm and predictable river. A brilliant patent clerk named Albert Einstein figured out that the universe plays a very cruel trick on us. He discovered that time is actually a deeply flexible fabric that stretches and warps depending on how you move. If you sit completely still on your front porch, time marches forward at its normal and utterly mundane pace. But the real secret is what happens when you start accelerating your spaceship toward the absolute cosmic speed limit. As your incredibly advanced vessel pushes closer to the speed of light, the universe forcefully hits the brake pedal. The surrounding space bends violently around your ship while time itself slows down to protect the ultimate cosmic laws. Let us visualize this bizarre phenomenon using something intensely familiar, like the rhythmic beating of your own human heart. Imagine you have a glowing biological monitor attached to your chest that transmits every single heartbeat back to Earth. When you first leave the launch pad, your friends in the control room hear your heart beating perfectly normally. They watch the screen and see the steady spikes of your pulse, matching the rhythm of their own chests. Now listen carefully as we push the throttle forward and finally approach the absolute maximum speed limit of light. For you sitting in the captain's chair, your heartbeat feels entirely normal and your breathing remains completely steady throughout. You pour yourself a cup of coffee and read a book without noticing any strange distortions in your cabin. However, the situation unfolding back at the Planetary Control Center in Houston paints a completely different and terrifying picture. Your family stares at the giant monitoring screens and realizes that your transmitted heartbeat has become impossibly dragged out. They hear one slow thump of your heart, followed by weeks of absolute silence before the next thump arrives. To them, you look like a frozen statue trapped inside a block of invisible ice hurtling through the void. What happened next will surprise you because this is not merely a weird visual glitch in the communication equipment. The terrifying reality is that your biological clock has genuinely detached from the chronological reality of your home planet. Are you beginning to grasp the profound cruelty hidden inside the fundamental equations of this vast and cold universe? You are basically cheating death by borrowing extra moments from the future, while your loved ones pay the price. Every single time you blink your eyes, several entire months might effortlessly evaporate down on the surface of Earth. When you decide to take a short nap after lunch, a whole generation of human beings grows old outside. You have effectively become a time traveler stepping forward into the future without ever stepping inside a magical machine. But wait, there is more to this existential nightmare than just the physical stretching of your own biological timeline. The universe demands a massive psychological toll for allowing you to cheat the natural decay of human biological cells. How can anyone prepare their soul for the devastating emotional weight of outliving everything they have ever truly cherished? The beautiful theory of relativity suddenly transforms from a fascinating chalkboard equation into a deeply profound and devastating personal tragedy. We often blindly romanticize the glamorous idea of exploring distant galaxies and planting flags on uncharted and incredibly exotic worlds. We proudly build these magnificent, miraculous metallic chariots to conquer the terrifying endless black void hanging above our fragile heads. But we completely forget that the ultimate currency required to purchase a ticket to the stars is time itself. You are trading the precious sunrises of your family for the cold and distant glow of alien star systems. Here is where it gets interesting, because this invisible scientific law will soon test the boundaries of human ambition. Will we still want to touch the magnificent cosmos when we finally understand the truly devastating cost of admission? Let us bring this immense cosmic phenomenon down to the dusty surface of Earth. Let us imagine a man named David. He is 38 years old and works as a heavy machinery operator down in a sprawling Texas mine. It is late on Christmas Eve, and the bitter winter wind is howling outside his modest trailer. While other families are gathered around glowing fireplaces sharing gifts, David is sitting alone at a cheap kitchen table staring blankly at a stack of white envelopes. These are not holiday greeting cards from distant relatives. They are the crushing weight of the American dream turning into a relentless nightmare. Those envelopes contain medical bills that keep multiplying like a vicious virus. His 8-year-old son is lying in a sterile hospital room miles away, desperately needing a highly specialized heart surgery to survive. But the insurance company has cruelly stamped denied on every single appeal, citing some obscure out-of-network clause that no normal person could possibly understand. David has sold his truck, drained his retirement fund, and worked double shifts until his hands bled. But he is still hundreds of thousands of dollars short. How do you look your dying child in the eyes and tell him that his life has a price tag you simply cannot afford? You do not. You look for a miracle, and then the miracle actually arrives. But it comes wrapped in the most terrifying contract in human history. A giant private aerospace corporation is suddenly offering him a staggering $5 million to join a high-risk deep space mining expedition. The mission itself will only take exactly 1 year of his biological time, allowing him to easily earn enough money to save his son and secure his fragile family forever. But wait, here is where it gets interesting. Because of the brutal physics of near-light speed travel we just talked about, that single year on the flying ship equals exactly 100 years back on Earth. If he signs that piece of paper, the $5 million will instantly be transferred to a trust fund to pay for the life-saving surgery. His little boy will definitely live, grow up, go to college, fall in love, and have a beautiful family of his own. But David will never get to see any of it happen. When he returns from his 1-year journey, his son will have lived a full century and already passed away from old age. Is saving someone you truly love worth losing them completely forever? Can you accept being a forgotten ghost in your own child's future, just to ensure that he actually has one? The silence in that freezing Texas trailer feels much heavier than a collapsed dying star. He holds the cheap plastic pen over the dotted signature line, feeling his heavy heart pounding violently against his ribs. Every single fiber of his being screams at him to stay, to spend whatever precious little time his son has left sitting right by his hospital bed. But a father's love is often measured by the agonizing sacrifices he is willing to make in the dark when nobody else is watching. Let us think about what such an impossible choice actually does to a fragile human soul. He is not just selling 12 months of his hard labor to a greedy corporation. He is violently sacrificing his own existence in his son's timeline to buy that boy a future. David presses the pen onto the cold paper with a violently trembling hand and slowly signs his full name. He knows with absolute certainty that he is becoming a wealthy savior and an absent phantom at the exact same time. Will his son eventually understand why his desperate father traded a beautiful lifetime of warm memories for a corporate bank transfer? That is a profoundly haunting question David will have one whole solitary year in the silent void of deep space to obsess over. He quietly packs a small duffel bag, takes one final look back, and walks out into the freezing night. Let us accept that David made an incredibly heartbreaking choice for his beloved family. Now imagine this is not just about a fictional spaceship flying through the galaxy. What if this extreme scenario is actually a perfect mirror of our daily reality? We look at his decision and judge him for leaving his sick son. Yet millions of people across this country are essentially boarding that exact same rocket ship. Think about the modern American dream and what it constantly demands from every single citizen. We are culturally programmed to believe that relentless grinding will eventually buy us absolute freedom. So we gladly trade our present moments for a promising but completely unwritten future reality. You take that promotion requiring 80 hours a week because it pays incredibly well now. You convince yourself that this massive sacrifice is strictly temporary for your ultimate family benefit. How many bedtimes and school plays have you willingly missed to secure that corner office? Here is where it gets incredibly interesting regarding our relationship with money and passing time. We treat our precious time like a cheap commodity that we can somehow buy back. Let us say you hustle for a solid decade to build an unstoppable corporate empire. You finally return to your beautiful suburban home with a shockingly large bank account balance. But you suddenly realize that your little children have completely transformed into unrecognizable independent adults. The money is sitting right there in your hand, but the timeline moved permanently forward. Why do we consistently fall for this tragic illusion of deferred happiness in our society? Perhaps the entire system is deliberately designed to keep us running on that endless treadmill. We are constantly bombarded with glamorous images of young billionaires who supposedly conquered the universe. They tell us that sleeping less and working harder is the only valid path upward, so we voluntarily step into our own personal time machines and hit the acceleration button. We emerge several years later feeling completely exhausted and wondering where our youthful energy went. Imagine your daily commute through heavy city traffic as a bizarre form of time dilation. Every single hour you spend staring at that glowing screen is an hour forever lost. You are physically present in the living room, but your mind orbits another distant planet. Your spouse sits quietly beside you on the couch while you aggressively answer corporate emails. Are you not experiencing the exact same devastating separation as an isolated astronaut in space? The only difference is that you never actually left the comfortable boundaries of your neighborhood. Let us imagine another scenario where you achieve every single financial milestone you ever desired. You can finally afford that luxurious vacation home, nestled peacefully in the gorgeous snowy mountains. You can buy all those incredibly expensive toys that you desperately wanted during your childhood. But the heavy toll of that relentless hustle has completely altered your internal emotional capacity. You suddenly find yourself entirely unable to enjoy those quiet moments you fought desperately for. The brutal tragedy of the American hustle is losing your soul while filling your wallet. What happens to those who are patiently waiting for you to return from your journey? They are forced to live their complicated lives without your emotional support and physical presence. Your kids celebrate their birthdays and navigate painful heartbreaks while you are chasing another promotion. They eventually learn to function completely independently because your absence becomes their new normal reality. When you finally decide to step off that corporate spaceship, there is no welcoming parade. You are just a weary stranger trying to re-enter a world that moved without you. Now listen carefully, because this specific realization is what makes the entire situation truly terrifying. We willingly participate in this destructive cycle because society celebrates the one who works hardest. We proudly wear our chronic sleep deprivation like a shiny badge of honor and dedication. Nobody ever tells you that the ultimate price of extreme success is profound personal isolation. You might conquer the entire business world only to discover an entirely empty dining table. Is any amount of accumulated wealth truly worth sacrificing the simple beauty of shared experiences? Let us take a deeply honest look at the terrifying mirror this cosmic journey presents. The overwhelming emptiness of deep space perfectly resembles the emotional void of workaholic corporate lifestyles. You might believe you are boldly securing a prosperous future for your beloved family members, but they would probably trade all that future wealth just to have you home tonight. We are all traveling through time at exactly the same speed right now on Earth. Why do we constantly invent new ways to artificially separate ourselves from those we love? So why might someone else willingly choose to make this devastating temporal sacrifice for a solitary cosmic journey? We have just explored the heavy burden of working tirelessly merely to ensure basic financial survival back home. But what if the ultimate motivation behind this departure is not driven by monetary compensation at all? Imagine a completely different driving force that historically pushes ambitious human beings far beyond their comfortable earthly limits. Sometimes extraordinary people eagerly surrender their precious personal time for a rare chance at achieving eternal historical glory. This relentless ambition runs incredibly deep within the very core veins of our modern American cultural identity today. Let us meet Elena, an exceptionally brilliant young astrophysics doctoral graduate currently conducting groundbreaking scientific research at MIT. She is standing completely alone near a frosty window inside her quiet and dimly lit Boston apartment tonight. The cold city streetlights reflect beautifully off a sparkling diamond engagement ring resting delicately upon her left hand. Her devoted fiancé gave it to her during a wonderfully romantic snowy evening just last December in Massachusetts. Right beside that meaningful sparkling ring lies an incredibly heavy and highly consequential piece of official government paper. It is a formal acceptance letter officially confirming her highly coveted role as an experimental test flight captain. She has been specially selected to command the very first deep space relativity flight in modern human history. The rich and triumphant legacy of the legendary Apollo missions courses fiercely through her highly ambitious young blood. She grew up idolizing courageous American astronauts who successfully planted flags on completely untouched and distant alien soil. Our modern society constantly glorifies the ultimate individual pursuit of conquering truly groundbreaking and entirely unprecedented scientific frontiers. We are constantly taught that achieving true greatness requires stepping boldly away from our safely established societal boundaries. Elena knows perfectly well that her unique intellectual capabilities could successfully push all of humanity into a completely new era. She feels a massive and almost overwhelming responsibility to fully utilize her exceptional scientific genius for the greater good. Stepping bravely onto that revolutionary experimental ship would instantly and permanently cement her distinguished name in global history. Now listen carefully, because here is where it gets genuinely interesting regarding her deeply agonizing and profound internal conflict. She must carefully and deliberately weigh two completely incompatible versions of a potentially beautiful and highly successful future life. On one hand, she clearly envisions a peaceful earthly existence filled with simple and beautiful everyday romantic love. She imagines raising wonderful children and growing gracefully old alongside her incredibly supportive and deeply affectionate life partner. That traditional path guarantees immense personal warmth and deeply comforting emotional stability throughout her entire natural human lifespan. On the completely opposite hand lies the breathtaking and truly magnificent greatness of achieving unprecedented scientific human space exploration. How can a normal domestic family life possibly compare to physically unraveling the deepest hidden secrets of space? She must tragically choose between fiercely loving one single person or heroically serving the collective advancement of humanity. Choosing the distant stars ultimately means she will permanently abandon the wonderful man she so deeply loves. By the time she safely returns to Earth, he will already be an incredibly frail elderly old man. Her grand historical legacy absolutely demands the complete and total destruction of her currently beautiful personal romantic reality. She stares intensely at the small metal ring and the official space agency letter resting quietly nearby. Ultimately, the intoxicating historical pull of discovering uncharted new galaxies becomes completely impossible for her to finally resist. She slowly takes off the glittering engagement ring and gently places it down forever upon her wooden desk. Will her monumental cosmic discovery truly and adequately compensate for enduring a long, painful lifetime of lost love? The cold and relentless engine of scientific progress rarely ever stops to mourn a broken human heart. Let us imagine the glorious moment when David finally steps out of that metallic landing capsule. He tightly grips that secure titanium briefcase containing his promised $5 million in pure cash. His weary heart beats wildly with the incredible anticipation of finally saving his precious little sick daughter. He survived the immense crushing darkness of deep space just to bring this miracle cure home. The bright Texas sun feels wonderfully warm on his face after an entire year of freezing isolation. He rapidly rushes toward the medical facility, expecting to pay those crushing hospital bills and embrace her. Everything he sacrificed seems entirely justified because he has successfully beaten the brutal American healthcare system. Will he finally get to see that beautiful bright smile he missed every single dark cosmic night? But the real secret is that the universe does not care about our noble human intentions. When he desperately searches for his little girl, the modern hospital staff look at him in absolute confusion. What happened next will completely shatter your comfortable understanding of how precious our human timeline actually is. His daughter is not a little girl waiting for a magical surgery in a pediatric ward anymore. She actually lived to be exactly 105 years old before peacefully passing away recently. Advanced medical science naturally cured her specific heart condition entirely for free about 80 years ago anyway. David slowly falls to his knees while holding a useless briefcase full of entirely obsolete paper money. He tragically traded her entire beautiful lifetime just to acquire a completely meaningless pile of dead currency. Now let us shift our focus to Elena and her triumphant return to a changed American society. Her experimental spacecraft touches down gracefully while millions of people scream her name in pure adoration. She instantly becomes the ultimate national symbol of pioneering courage and our relentless modern space ambition. Giant bronze statues of her brave figure are quickly erected in every single major American metropolis today. She successfully achieved the absolute pinnacle of individualistic success that every brilliant MIT graduate secretly dreams about. History books will forever remember her as the fearless explorer who conquered the terrifying cosmic dark. She smiles brightly for the flashing cameras while tightly clutching the small engagement ring in her pocket. Does this overwhelming global adulation truly compensate for the profound silence she endured out in the void? Here is where it gets interesting, because monumental historical fame rarely warms a freezing, lonely human heart. She eventually escapes the massive cheering crowds to visit a quiet suburban nursing home outside of Boston. Elena stands completely frozen in the doorway, watching an incredibly frail 90-year-old man drinking tea. That wrinkled, fragile gentleman is her former fiancé, who is now gently holding another elderly woman by the hand. He lived an entire beautiful ordinary life full of quiet suburban mornings and warm Thanksgiving family dinners. He proudly raised 3 wonderful children and built a modest, happy home while she chased those distant stars. Elena currently possesses the absolute adoration of 1 trillion strangers but lacks the one heartbeat she desperately wanted. Is eternal historical glory actually worth experiencing the most profound and isolating loneliness a human can endure? Both of these ambitious individuals successfully conquered the ultimate physical boundaries of our vast, mysterious universe today. They brilliantly manipulated the fundamental laws of astrophysics to achieve their deeply personal and professional American dreams. Yet they both stare blankly at the absolute devastating wreckage of their deeply shattered personal human timelines. The absolute cruelest joke of relativity is that you cannot ever buy back the moments you willingly skipped. David successfully secured the ultimate financial bag, but completely lost the only person who gave it any value. Elena flawlessly secured her permanent immortal legacy, but entirely sacrificed her only chance at genuine mortal warmth. Why do we constantly convince ourselves that distant future rewards are somehow infinitely better than our present reality? This devastating realization forces us to carefully reevaluate the nature of our daily struggles. We are constantly sprinting on an endless treadmill, trying to secure a theoretical better tomorrow. We willingly sacrifice our precious, irreplaceable youth while desperately attempting to stockpile wealth for an unpredictable future. These 2 tragic space travelers physically demonstrate the exact same mistake we all make every single day. They mistakenly believed that they could simply pause their intimate relationships while they went to conquer reality. Are we actively ignoring these beautiful fleeting moments right now while desperately chasing our own distant stars? You might assume the tragic lesson here is a strict warning against exploring the stars or pursuing massive corporate monetary wealth. We are easily tempted to believe that humanity should simply stay grounded and completely abandon all our massive interstellar ambitions forever. But actually, the real secret is something far more profound than a simple morality tale about greed or scientific human hubris. How do we resolve these apparent contradictions between our innate human ambition and the crushing harsh reality of relativistic time dilation? Our modern American culture constantly conditions us to believe that ultimate luxury strictly means having a multi-million-dollar stock portfolio. We tirelessly sprint on a relentless treadmill to secure massive mansions and build monumental cultural legacies that will theoretically outlive us. We mistakenly think that accumulating immense material wealth or achieving historical greatness can somehow permanently shield us from our inevitable mortality. Yet the heartbreaking tragedies of our space travelers clearly demonstrate that human achievements are utterly defenseless against the relentless cosmic clock. What good is a gigantic mountain of corporate money if there is absolutely nobody left on Earth to share it with? The vast and violent universe does not care about your hard-earned promotions or your brilliantly engineered, technological, scientific breakthrough moments. Time functions as a silently destructive river that eventually erodes away every single proud monument we desperately try to build today. When you travel at the speed of light to capture glory, you are essentially trading your precious shared reality for isolation. You effectively become a timeless ghost, wandering through a future where your previous existence has been completely forgotten by absolutely everyone. The ultimate currency in this terrifyingly massive galaxy is not futuristic alien technology or massive piles of freshly printed fiat money. We must fundamentally redefine what we currently consider to be the most valuable and precious commodity in our brief human existence. The greatest possible luxury is not bending the fundamental laws of physics to artificially extend your own personal biological earthly lifespan. It is definitely not about freezing yourself in a relativistic bubble while the rest of humanity rapidly turns into cosmic dust. The true pinnacle of human wealth is simply sitting quietly on a porch and watching the evening sunset with someone special. It is the profoundly beautiful privilege of experiencing the chaotic decay of life at the exact same natural speed as them. To age together without any artificial disruption is a mathematical miracle in a universe governed by beautifully ruthless, strict physical laws. Sharing a perfectly synchronized timeline with a loved one is a rare astronomical phenomenon that we entirely take for granted daily. Every single passing second you spend comfortably breathing the same air as your family is a magnificent victory against the cosmos. We should cherish this synchronized mortality because it is the only genuine anchor we truly have in this terrifyingly expansive galaxy. So perhaps the real paradox is why we constantly sacrifice our uniquely shared present moments for an utterly unpredictable, lonely future. There is absolutely no amount of professional success or technological advancement that can ever replace the deeply comforting warmth of a shared lifetime. We must realize that true greatness is not outliving your generation, but rather choosing to bravely fade away right alongside your beloved partner. We still do not fully understand the profound psychological consequences of our modern daily behaviors. Science cannot accurately measure the exact emotional of constantly chasing a distant glittering tomorrow. You might comfortably assume that relativistic space travel remains purely a theoretical concept for physicists. Now listen carefully, because the silent reality of our current society is actually far more unsettling. We have already constructed our own remarkably powerful time machines right here on planet Earth. They do not look like gleaming metallic rockets preparing for an incredible interstellar cosmic journey. Instead, they take the completely mundane forms of crowded morning trains and endless highway commutes. Every single time you accept a demanding job across the country, you are basically launching. You are actively stepping inside a solitary capsule that violently separates your personal temporal reality. Think deeply about the exhausted parent taking a demanding corporate rotation in a different state. They confidently pack their heavy suitcases, believing this temporary sacrifice will secure a brilliant financial future. Are they not experiencing a much quieter version of the exact same devastating temporal paradox? They finally return home months later, only to find their children speaking with entirely new vocabularies. The faded height marks carved into the wooden kitchen doorframe have suddenly jumped several significant inches. We foolishly convince our tired minds that we can somehow firmly pause the lives of our loved ones. We arrogant humans genuinely believe that the moving world will patiently wait for our triumphant return. But the fundamental governing laws of the unforgiving universe simply do not care about your career ambitions. Time will relentlessly continue its aggressive forward march, regardless of how noble your original intentions might be. We do not know how much invisible emotional damage this endless modern commuting actually inflicts upon us. Psychologists measure our rising stress levels but cannot calculate the precise cost of a missed bedtime story. You sit aggressively in heavy coastal traffic while your youngest daughter carefully learns how to ride her bicycle alone. The brilliant scientists studying the complex Fermi paradox often wonder why highly advanced alien civilizations are entirely silent. Maybe those incredibly intelligent extraterrestrial beings simply realize that aggressive outward expansion always destroys their fragile, intimate domestic connections. They might have deliberately chosen to stay safely home instead of bravely venturing into the freezing dark cosmic void. This unsettling observation brings us directly to the ultimate tragedy of the modern American hustle culture. We are culturally conditioned from childhood to constantly trade our present moments for a highly theoretical future. Millions of ambitious professionals sacrifice beautiful, ordinary days just to stockpile massive wealth for a distant retirement. We do not truly comprehend that those fleeting, ordinary moments are genuinely the only things that matter. Perhaps the most profound, terrifying mystery of the entire cosmos is not hidden inside a massive black hole. The greatest unresolved existential puzzle is why we consistently choose to run desperately away from our present. We willingly board our isolating metaphorical spaceships every single morning to furiously chase an ever-shifting horizon. We spend our entire fragile existence desperately trying to outrun the perfectly natural flow of human mortality. Humanity currently lacks the advanced scientific equations required to accurately calculate the crushing weight of profound regret. No brilliant, renowned physicist can properly quantify the devastating, lingering sorrow of an empty, silent suburban dining room. What if true ultimate luxury has absolutely nothing to do with accumulating massive amounts of digital corporate currency? The highest absolute privilege might simply be the quiet, undisturbed ability to exist alongside someone you deeply love. It is the beautiful, irreplaceable freedom to age gracefully at the exact same biological speed as your family. You can successfully conquer the entire competitive galaxy and firmly plant your victorious shining flag on distant planets. But the cold, endlessly unfeeling universe will never once offer you a second chance at recovering lost time. Are you absolutely certain that your current glowing destination is truly worth the precious people you are leaving behind?